How does one joke at a family table end with papers placed in my hand under a red camera light? Why did my husband say nothing at dinner, then answer me the next week with quiet process and immediate orders? What happens when I call cheating truth and the only reply left is law? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm Ligea Moore, 33, scheduling coordinator at a medical workspace. I like tidy calendars at work and bright noise at home. I said honesty kept love clean. My husband, Adrian, asked for respect. I said he feared truth. I told myself my joke about remarrying my ex Theo in spirit was brave, not betrayal. I said tests prove a heart is alive. I believed one strong caption could fix any mood. We had our daughter, Iris, who loved stickers and warm socks. Adrian tied her laces and marked school notes with small arrows. He asked what time I would be home. I said I lived by feeling. He asked me not to post private things. I said light heels. My coworker Salma called me bold. I said bold is good. Theo sent short jokes from his bar. I called them harmless sparks. Little signs stacked up like neat stones. A thin binder labeled utilities felt thicker than bills. A sticky note near the keys read, bring forms. Adrian's phone flashed downtown 9:35 and went quiet. 2 mugs sat on opposite counters like a border. His laptop showed a spreadsheet with initials and dates, then minimized when I entered. A cloud sync pop-up said file uploaded successfully. I told myself he was dramatic. Mrs. Lark watched from her window. Margot, his mother, asked if jokes can bruise. I said old rules always say yes. I planned to tell my truth where people could clap. I woke before the alarm and watched the grey line of light crawl across the ceiling. I turned toward Adrian and said I believed in hard truth. He asked if I meant my old post where I said I had remarried Theo in spirit. I said it was only a brave joke, not betrayal. He asked me not to bring Theo into our bed anymore. I said tests prove a heart is alive. He breathed slow and rolled to the edge. I told myself slow breathing was his apology. It made me feel taller. I brushed my teeth and looked at my face in the mirror. I said a clean face means a clean story. In the kitchen, I set 2 mugs on the counter and pushed his closer. He left it where it sat. He asked what time I would be home. I said I lived by feeling, not clocks. He asked for a text if I stayed late. I said a text sounded like a curfew. He said Iris needed calm nights. I said he used our daughter to police me. The toaster popped, and the sound felt like a small gate closing between us. Iris came in with stickers on both hands and asked if today had cocoa. I said yes after school. Adrian tied her laces and put her hat on the chair. He said he would do drop-off. I said I had an early lobby shift and a quick drink with Salma. Iris asked if we were happy. I said we were strong. She nodded like a tiny judge and drew a sun on the back of a grocery list. On the hall table, I saw a thin binder labeled utilities that looked thicker than bills. A sticky note near the keys said, bring forms. I tapped the binder and laughed to myself. I called it house theatre. Adrian's phone flashed an alert. Downtown 9:35. He swiped it away without a comment. I asked what downtown meant so early. He said it was a personal errand. I said personal sounded serious. He said personal was allowed. I liked that word only when I owned it. I stepped into the small study to print Iris's permission slip. His laptop glowed with a spreadsheet full of initials and dates. When I moved closer, he minimized the window and the screen went dim. I asked if he was cleaning files. He said he was getting organized. I said he had discovered workplace drama for our home. A cloud sync pop-up blinked file uploaded successfully before the screen slept. He closed the drawer and the lock clicked. The click felt like a small door closing inside my chest. I pretended not to care. My phone lit with a late message from Theo, a photo of a bar napkin with a doodle of 2 rings. He wrote that vows without air turn stale. I liked it, then unliked it, then liked it again. Salma sent a sun emoji and said bold women keep love real. I told her I would meet her later and that the sky would forgive us. Across the row, Mrs. Lark's curtain moved. I smiled big at the window as if the world had praised me. By the door, Adrian asked again for a simple text if I planned to be late. I said I wanted trust without checkpoints. He said trust and clarity can live in the same house. I said speeches kill love. He did not answer. I wrapped my scarf and kissed Iris's hair. She asked me to read 2 pages tonight. I said I would read 3. Adrian zipped her coat slow, like careful work was a type of prayer. On the landing, the stairwell smelled like clean dust. I went down 2 steps and heard the soft door latch click behind me. At the same moment, a buzz sounded on the console table. His phone lit with a muted call labeled private. He turned it face down and slipped it into his pocket. I told myself morning private calls were suspicious. He locked the deadbolt and kept his face steady. I lifted my chin and chose a good walking rhythm. I said adults can handle tests. Cold air rose up the street. I planned a bright lobby selfie by the fern wall at work. I pictured a caption about truth, keeping a house warm. I told myself the right line would make the crowd clap. On the bus, I checked Theo's page. He had posted a chalkboard note that said, "Open hearts, open tabs." I saved it without sharing. Saving is not acting, I said. The story was still mine to hold. The co-working lobby smelled like coffee and printer toner. I turned on the pendant lights and watched the floor shine. The badge printer showed a neat green check. I stood by the living wall and took a selfie with a bright half smile. I typed, "Truth keeps a house healthy," and posted it. Little hearts arrived fast. Salma came in with a bright scarf and said the numbers looked sweet. I said people crave honesty. She said men call honesty a wound when they fear it. I said Adrian should learn the new language. Tenants came with rolling bags and calm shoes. I scanned passes, handed keys, and called the elevator when hands were full. Mr. Petrov passed with a nod. I gave him my best work face and felt professional and light at once. My phone buzzed with a text preview from Adrian. "Can we talk after pickup?" I swiped it away so the bubble would vanish. I said to myself that I needed focus. I said I would answer later with grace. Before 10, Salma showed me a story where someone had tagged our lobby under a clip of string lights from last night. I saw my red lipstick in a window reflection and felt a small warm rush in my chest. I said it was good reach. She said the algorithm loves tidy faces with messy captions. I said I could do tidy and messy both. A pair of dentists arrived. I passed them guest lanyards like I was dealing cards at a quiet table. A team of founders asked for a meeting room. I walked them through the glass suites with clean steps. When I returned, Mr. Petrov asked for a quick word in the HR glass room. He said a guest had linked our location to a personal post that hinted at intimate themes. He said the brand must stay separate from private lives. I said I understood and thanked him for the clarity. He asked me to review my tags and unlink anything that could confuse clients. I said yes and smiled like a brochure. Inside, I called the rule small. Outside, I called it policy. Back at the desk, Salma asked what he wanted. I said optics again. She rolled her eyes and said the world liked to be asleep. I said we were here to wake it up. She told me to post near sunset for the best lift. I said I would time it so the light softened everything. She said to bring a line that makes people gasp. I said I always bring one. My phone buzzed with a preview of Adrian's message asking again to talk. I cleared it before the full text appeared. The copy room clattered. The printer pulled a sheet and spat a single blank page. The sound tugged a thread in my stomach. I thought about a blank page at home last week. I told myself printers act strange all the time. I placed the page on the recycle stack like a nurse returning a chart. The humming stopped. The stillness felt staged. I shook it off. At break, I checked Adrian's shared calendar, the link he once sent me to keep track of pickups. A block labeled Meeting, personal sat in the middle of the week, neat and quiet. Today showed a small, downtown 1340 entry that had already passed. I messaged him asking if he had joined a class. He replied that he had a personal schedule to keep. I wrote that schedules are for people who fear flow. He replied that routines help Iris. I wrote that I am not Iris, then locked the screen before his dots could appear. I decided I had won because my line sounded pretty. Theo sent a short message about a faded street poster from our old campus. He asked if I still believed in vows with air. I typed that air keeps vows alive. He replied that his bar was quiet before 5. I told myself a quiet bar is only a bar. Meeting is not breaking, I said. I put the phone face down and checked in a pediatric dentist with 3 boxes of samples. I smiled the smile that says the world is simple. Mrs. Lark came in to pick up mail for her clinic. She asked how Iris liked the new mittens. I said Iris loved the yellow pair. She said yellow is easy to find if it falls. She watched me for a small second and then moved on. I felt my shoulders lift, as if I had passed a test. I told myself neighbors do not vote in my life. Late afternoon changed the lobby light to a warm color. I wiped the welcome counter and stacked visitor lanyards by shade. Selma messaged that the rooftop would be gold tonight. I said I would be there in a simple dress. She said to bring my bravest line. I said I had one. I checked my reflection in the elevator doors and liked the clean outline. I thought I looked like someone who could not be pushed. I updated the events board and closed the badge drawer. The copy room clattered again and spit another blank page. The quiet afterward felt heavy, like a breath held too long. I smoothed the page, folded it once, then unfolded it and put it back on the recycle stack. I told myself I was being dramatic. Machines do not send messages, people do. I was the person. I would send one later. At 5:30 I powered down the tablets and told Selma I would change at home. She said she would hold a table with a view of the rail. I said I might stop by Theo's bar first for a short hello, just to prove that adults can talk like adults. She laughed and said, "Proof is slippery." I said, "Proof is clean when you carry it well." Outside, the air felt like a cool hand. I checked my morning post. The hearts kept climbing. I drafted a new line in my notes. Truth keeps a house warm when doors are open. I saved it and did not post. Timing is a kind of art, I said. I planned my route. Quick hello at the bar, then a rooftop where light makes every face kinder. I pictured the toast and the phones and the soft cheer. I pictured myself in the center like a small sun, and I liked that picture more than any real plan. Theo's bar sat on the corner with warm bulbs and a chalkboard sign. I stepped in early so the room would see me. A server said the place felt quiet without my laugh. I said laughs return when the night behaves. Theo wiped the counter and asked if I wanted something light. I said a bright soda would fit. He nodded to the bartender and leaned close enough for memory to feel near but not touch. I kept my elbows neat and tilted my chin to the good angle. A woman near the jukebox held her phone high. I told myself she filmed the playlist, not me. Theo asked how married life handled brave truth. I said our house needed more air. He asked if Adrian had changed. I said he had turned quiet like a locked drawer. Theo smiled like he knew that drawer. He asked if I still believed in tests. I said tests show strength. He said some tests feel like games to people who never agreed to play. I answered that adults know the rules without being told. I paid, called the visit a friendly hello, and promised nothing. He said he would be there if trains were slow. I said the city decides. The metro took me across town. My reflection in the window stretched like a pencil line. I told myself I belonged to the moving parts, not slow kitchens. The rooftop bar spread under a pink sky. Lanterns hung in a soft row, and glass rails held the skyline just there. Salma waved from a high table and said the view was a gift. I said the view loved me back. We slid into a circle that liked easy noise. Friends asked if Adrian minded my honesty. I said he respected truth. The heads around me nodded like I had shown a badge. Music swelled and then dropped. Someone raised a glass and called for a toast. Others joined until the word toast became a chant. Selma touched my arm and said the moment was mine. I stepped forward as if the floor had invited me. I lifted my glass and said I had remarried my ex in spirit once, only as a test, and that brave love carries truth without breaking. There were cheers. I felt the cheers like warm air under my ribs. I smiled the cut smile I had practiced. Adrian arrived then, guided by a mutual friend who looked careful. He greeted the circle and stood at a polite distance. He said we could talk tomorrow. I said the talk was now, under lights, with support. He looked at the skyline instead of my words. His smartwatch flashed a quiet line that read, Downtown 1420. He tapped it away like a fly. The motion felt practiced. Phones rose as if pulled by strings. A red recording light on a case by the rail blinked like a calm eye. Salma whispered that the internet loves a strong line. I said the internet loves clarity. I tilted my chin so the lanterns drew a sharp edge. I said if trains closed, a friend's couch was not a crime. Laughter bubbled and rolled over the table. I let the roll wash my face and called that feeling proof. Adrian did not fight. He set his glass down and walked to the stairwell. He put on headphones and answered a short call. His mouth moved without sound. He stood like a person steadying papers in a careful wind. I told myself he needed coaching because he could not keep up with my language. I called that weakness so I would feel tall. We formed for a group photo. The photographer asked us to hold. The flash popped once, and the roof turned white for a beat. I gave my half smile that says, I know where the story goes. When the white cleared, Adrian had returned. He said we would speak in the morning and that he would not argue in public. His voice stayed level. Level made me feel small, so I named it cold in my head. Last orders came fast. We spilled down the stair. Street air brought the river's cool breath. Salma said the clip would travel. I said travel means truth. A stranger in a denim jacket passed with his phone up and mouthed what looked like wow. I took that as proof my line had worked. I typed a caption for the saved group shot. I wrote that honesty keeps a house strong when doors are open. I did not post it yet. Timing is a kind of power, I said. On the metro home, I took a window selfie. The glass sharpened me and pushed the rest away. Theo sent a smirk and asked if trains were friendly. I typed maybe. Adrian sent a neat line saying he would put Iris to bed and we would talk tomorrow. I turned the phone face down and told myself, neat lines are not love. The car swayed. My reflection swayed with it. I decided the family dinner would seal my lesson for everyone. The family restaurant smelled like garlic and warm bread. We came for a cousin's small birthday. The long table wore paper runners and simple candles. I chose a seat between Iris and Rowan, so I could look like mother and sister at once. Adrian took the end near the aisle, where he could speak to the server without crossing anyone's view. He looked rested, like a person who had finished a map. Margot arrived in a calm sweater and hugged Iris first. I told myself the night would be easy. That rooftop noise would shrink to a funny line. Starters came, and small talk flowed. I told a story about a stuck elevator at work that had the whole floor laughing. Rowan smiled and tapped his glass. Iris drew a house on the runner. She drew 2 beds far apart and a bright window between them. She asked if grown-ups sleep in different rooms when they remarry exes in spirit. Fawkes paused. The table leaned. I said the internet is a silly echo. She looked at her drawing and coloured the window more yellow. Margot's eyes held still, like she was adding a line to a ledger. The server cleared plates and set down a slice of cake with a small candle. Someone whispered that Adrian had a surprise. He reached into his jacket and lifted a small box. He looked at me, steady and open. He said he wanted to renew our vows in spring and set new habits. His voice sounded like a warm road. The table tilted toward him. I was not ready to share that tilt. I smiled bright and said I had already remarried my ex in spirit, and that truth mattered more than old rituals. The room went quiet. A spoon touched the runner with a soft tap that felt like a tiny hammer. Adrian closed the box without opening it. He thanked the server, who had started to hum the birthday tune, and then let it die. Rowan stared at the salt shaker. Margot placed a hand on Iris's shoulder and asked if she could help blow the candle. I made my smile larger so I would not look cruel if a camera saw me. The larger smile hurt my face. The air did not shift. When the bill came, Adrian spoke calmly to the server and asked for separate checks. I called it petty in my head. He said it kept records clear. He folded his receipt and slid it into his wallet like a quiet note. The more careful he was, the more I wanted to knock over a glass and make a storm. He gave me nothing to push. Silence wrapped the table like cotton. We walked to the park after cake. The night air made the swing sing. Iris pumped her legs and asked if I had 2 husbands now. I said I lived in one house with many rooms. She asked if the ex had a room. I said old friends live in stories, not rooms. The words felt rubbery. Margot sat on a bench and watched the slide's dark shape. She said public laughs become records. I said modern life is sharp on purpose. She asked who pays for sharp. I said the slow pay because they do not move. She watched me without blinking. The quiet felt like a test I was failing. On the way home, we stopped at the pharmacy for vitamins. The line was short, but the light was harsh. A rack of toothpaste leaned toward me like my day job. Mrs. Lark entered with a basket and nodded. She asked how Iris liked the mittens. I said the yellow pair helped us find them if they fell. She nodded again and said little else. The lack of drama made my back stiffen. I told myself neighbors do not run my life. We reached the townhouse before 9. The kitchen smelled like lemon cleaner and paper. A folder labeled household sat, tucked into a canvas tote by the counter. A phone alarm near the keys flashed paper drop. Adrian dismissed it with one finger. I said the phrase was boring. He checked Iris's backpack and placed a signed permission slip on the fridge with a magnet. I told him he was turning our life into a file. He said he was making it easier for Iris to breathe. The line did not rise. It landed and stayed. Down the hall, the office hummed once with a soft machine sound. It was the shredder, low and neat. It stopped, then started again. The smell of printer toner hung in the air like a thin shadow. On the laptop, a cloud sync pop-up flashed, file uploaded successfully, and vanished when he noticed me. The guest bed in the next room looked slightly disturbed, as if someone had sat on it to think with careful posture. I asked if he had moved sheets. He said he had made space. I said made space was code for ice. He did not answer. Iris brushed her teeth and held her picture book with the red cover. She asked me to read the Fox page twice. I read it 3 times because I wanted to win something small. She fell asleep, with her hand on the corner, like it was her handle to morning. Adrian tucked the blanket smooth and flicked the light. He placed 2 mugs on opposite counters again. The gap looked like a river that had cut new banks. Then he did the part I did not expect. He walked to the hall closet, lifted my overnight tote from the floor, and set it by the door. He placed my house key on top of it. He did not raise his voice. He did not make a speech. He opened the door and waited. I said this was petty theatre. He said nothing. The hallway air felt colder than the street. I picked up the tote because my hand moved before my pride did. He closed the door without slam. The latch clicked like a period. I stood on the landing and stared at the wood grain. My phone buzzed. Salma sent a fire emoji and asked if I wanted to go live with a quick freedom line. I almost said yes, then set the phone face down in my tote. From inside the townhouse, the shredder hummed once more, brief and low. The cloud sync pop-up flash touched the wall through the narrow window like a tiny lightning. I told myself he was cleaning clutter. I told myself paper means nothing. The parking garage under the hub felt colder than the street. My heels tapped and came back as echoes. Adrian stood near our car with headphones on and his phone low. He spoke in a soft voice that did not bounce off the concrete. When he saw me, he ended the call and wished me a safe day. I said I might be late. He nodded and opened the door. He did not ask for details. I called the nod cruel in my head so I could keep my pride. Upstairs, the lobby buzzed. Salma sent me a link to the rooftop clip. It froze on my chin, tilted toward the lanterns, glass raised. Comments fought under it. Some called me brave. Some used words that tasted like a coin. Mr. Petrov emailed with a gentle subject about brand integrity and asked for a quick word. In the HR glass room, he repeated that location tags and intimate themes should never mix. He said clients need clear air. I said I understood and thanked him for the care. I held my smile flat like a tray. On my way back to the desk, the copy room clattered and then spit a single blank page. It slid out and lay there, like the machine had started a sentence and swallowed it. I set it on the recycle stack. The quiet, after the clatter, felt staged, like a pause on a stage. I told myself printers glitch, meaning lives in people, not paper. At lunch, I checked Adrian's shared calendar. Meeting personal sat neat in the middle of the week. Today had a small note, downtown 1625. I sent him a message asking if he had joined a class. He replied that he had a plan. I said, plans are for people who fear surprise. He wrote that routines help Iris. I wrote that I am not Iris. His dots did not appear. The blank line under my last text made the phone feel heavy. I left early to change, telling Salma that dusk loves pale fabric. The guest bedroom at home looked staged again. The comforter was flat as a page, pillows square, the air a little too clean. A canvas tote sat on the chair with 3 binders stacked inside: home, auto, bank. On the desk, a clipboard lay with the single word statement at the top. I ran my finger under the clip like it might bite. In the nightstand drawer, I found a small USB stick, taped under a folder marked taxes. Today's date was written on its side in thin, careful numbers. When I pushed the drawer back, a lock clicked. The click went straight down my bones. In the kitchen, Adrian placed 2 mugs on opposite counters again, like flags on a map. He pinned a simple weekly plan for Iris to the fridge. Blocks and arrows, bedtime and pickup, plain and gentle. I said he liked control. He said routines keep children steady. I said love needs surprise. He said chaos eats trust. I asked if he loved me. He said he loved our daughter and would keep her safe. The words were soft and heavy. I treated them like a jab to avoid the weight. My phone buzzed. Thea wrote that low-key was best and asked for no tags. I stared at the message and turned the sting into a smile. Salma said I should post bold and let the debate feed itself. I typed a caption about freedom and truth, then deleted it. I told myself timing was art and silence was part of the brush. Adrian's screen lit with a reminder, downtown 1625. He dismissed it with a steady thumb. For a breath, I saw a thread titled, Follow Up. Then it vanished. I asked if he was seeing someone about me. He said he was getting clear. I asked clear about what. He said clear about what matters. He checked the keys on the hook. A new thin key flashed on the ring. When I reached, he slipped the ring into his pocket. I called it secrecy. He called it order. He spoke like a person who had traced a route on a map and folded it back. From the balcony, I watched the street. His car faced the road, pointed like an arrow. Wind moved the small trees along the curb. Inside, the office hummed once with the shredder, low and neat, then stopped. The smell of toner drifted through the hall the way it did at my job when the copier coughed. I told myself he was cleaning clutter. I told myself we both loved clarity. I tried to arrange a talk before dinner. I said we need to clear the air. He said we would not fight. I said silence is a fight. He said he would handle this properly. He used the word properly like a key that fit a waiting lock. I said no one wants a courthouse life. He said we would do what keeps Iris safe. I waited for a storm to prove he cared. He gave me measured weather, and I hated how steady it felt. After Iris's bath, he checked her backpack and added a note to the schedule. He placed the folder, labeled household, into the canvas tote and slid the tote under the bench by the door. I asked if we were roommates now. He said we were parents. I said lovers make room for mess. He said adults make room for calm. The hallway light made the whole scene look like a diagram. Later, I stood in the office doorway. His laptop showed a clean desktop tree. Archive A, Archive B. Windows blinked open and closed too quickly to read. I asked if we were still us. He said we would communicate about Iris and the house. I said that sounded like a script. He said it sounded like adults. I said adults hold hands and say sorry. He said adults set times and keep them. I lay in the guest room and scrolled old photos until my eyes stung. In one, Adrian's face was open and unguarded. It made my chest feel like water. I swiped to the rooftop shot and found my best angle again. I wrote the caption and saved it. Truth keeps a home warm when doors are open. I set an alarm, laid a bright dress over the chair, and pictured the office tower lobby with the tall windows that turn skin into glass. One good frame would flip the mood. One clean sentence would hold it in place. The office tower lobby breathed cool air and kept a polite echo. Glass rose high, and a metal sculpture caught light like a net. The floor shone the way water shines when it pretends to be stone. I arrived at noon in my bright dress with my phone warm in my hand. I stood by the sculpture and tried a test smile that said control and grace at once. The elevator bell chimed. People crossed the lobby with practiced steps and did not look up. A man with a clipboard walked toward me and said my full name in a clear voice. I said yes. He asked me to confirm my identity. I did. He placed a sealed envelope in my hand. My smile kept its shape for one more second, then let go. I opened the top page with careful fingers. The words were plain and steady. It was a divorce petition with temporary financial and possession orders. Inside sat a notice for an interim custody schedule filing. Pick-up and drop-off times were listed for the coming days. Another line granted exclusive use of the townhouse pending hearing. The sentences did not flare. They simply became true. Adrian stood 20 feet away with a neutral witness beside him. He did not hide. He did not perform. He looked like a person who had followed a map and arrived on time. He said we would follow the schedule exactly. I said this was public and cruel. He said this was lawful and necessary. His voice was level, the way a table is level. He did not step toward me or away from me. He stood and let the paper speak. Salma hovered by a pillar with her phone half out, then half in. She whispered that we could post a statement. I moved my arm from her hand and looked up at the security camera above the desk. A small red light blinked like a metronome. In the blink, I saw the rooftop flash, the long table, the small box that closed, the guest bed slightly disturbed, the mug gap on the counters, the blank printer pages like white tongues, and Iris's drawing of 2 beds with a yellow window between them. I tried to write one line that could hold all of it. No line came. The process server asked me to sign an acknowledgement of receipt. I signed my name in neat letters that looked like labels. The pen clicked once. The witness wrote the time. The elevator opened and closed and poured strangers into our small circle. The envelope edges pressed into my palms. They were not sharp, they were exact. Adrian said he would be at the listed pickup point this afternoon and that we would communicate by message only about Iris and the house. I asked if we could talk alone and fix this. He said there would be no more scenes. The word scenes slid across the lobby and settled near my shoes. Margot entered through the revolving doors with measured steps. She greeted the server, nodded to the witness, and looked at me without a speech. She asked if she could take Iris now, according to the schedule. I had packed the small backpack out of habit the night before, the way I always did. I handed it to her, because my hand understood what the paper meant before my pride did. Rowan stood near a bench with his hands in his jacket. He did not take sides. His face looked like a person who has finally stopped holding his breath. I stared at the first page again, as if letters might blur and show mercy. They held. A group of office workers passed, laughing about soup and weather. Their sound felt far and light, like radio in another room. The red blink kept time with nothing I could touch. My phone screen still showed the test selfie beside the sculpture. The smile on the screen looked like a sticker on a box that had already been sealed. Adrian thanked the process server and nodded to the witness. He told me he wished for quiet for Iris and that he would follow the schedule. Then he turned toward the revolving door and stepped into noon. The panels rotated, and his shape slid through the glass slices into the bright outside. The process server said the papers had been served, and that the temporary orders were in effect now. The phrase in effect felt like a stamp landing on a flat page, not loud, not soft, just done. Selma tucked her phone away and stared at the floor tile as if it could offer a caption. Margot adjusted the backpack strap on her shoulder and walked toward the door with a steady pace that said, "The plan matters more than feelings." I stayed where I was, envelope in both hands, bright dress catching a stripe of window light that did not warm anything. The elevator bell chimed behind me. The lobby returned to its normal hum, the sculpture still holding light like a net, the camera blinking its patient blink. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.